Here's another anti-white pig demonstrating how anti-white he is.
Yeah, the United States is about to see a lot more hate crime videos with South African accents. Well,
totally. I mean, how brain rotted is this POS?
Donald Trump is perfectly fine to insist that the US is full up and they don't need any more immigrants. When it's white immigrants, it's a different story. Now granting asylum to white Afrikaner South Africans on the basis of them being victims of racial discrimination. By racial discrimination, they...
Well, what's this guy actually? What is this? How is that quotes? This piece of shit anti-white dog.
Of course, mean the South African government trying to undo decades of apartheid-era policy.
Okay, so exactly everything I explained with the guy earlier. Exactly as I explained. They're going to pick a part of the story of the existence of white people going and building a civilization, a country called South Africa. And they're going to bungee into a chapter where white people are incrementally allowing blacks in South Africa to participate in our country, in our civilization we built there. And instead of the perspective of this is one of the incremental steps of allowing blacks to participate, now it's from, for anti-whites, from the perspective of pushing them out of society, the society that they created, the society that they built. You really have to think about Orania right now, because these are the exact same arguments. If you were able to live several lifetimes, if you were able to live like 5 human lifetimes and you were fit and healthy for the vast majority of that time, you would watch what is happening right now with Orania play out with all of the West. White people build a, so you would be absolutely incredulous. You would say, what are you talking about? White people were a tribe among others, and they won in these areas, and they built their own civilization. They were 100%. I was here. They built it. What do you mean they stole it? I was here when they started letting the non-whites in. But this is anti-whiteism. You cannot stay in the story and defeat it.
These well-dressed, well-fed, hyper-westernized white South Africans are not
well-fed people feeding themselves. He's got a problem with it.
Victims of anything. These are just white people who spent generations benefiting from an apartheid system that was designed to favor them.
So, okay, so do you see? It's really important to dig into the weeds. We're not going to be on much longer, but to really just dig into the weeds of the components of the anti-white narrative. Really important to dig into the weeds, because this anti-white is telling you exactly what all anti-whites think. White people are anthropomorphized as this demonic group that has been benefiting. You could be 5 years old and you've been benefiting for millennia from the oppression and exploitation. And so therefore, you must, the only moral thing to do is to victimize you. And then they make claims like this piece of shit, I believe it's him, sorry for my French, but is going to make that, oh yeah, equality feels, this mean pathogen, feels like discrimination when you've had white privilege. We built it. We earned it. My home and what my people create is not my privilege. That's our blood, sweat, and tears, you POS. But that is how they define it in the anti-white narrative.
I'm aware of the dispute that the white Afrikaners have with the South African government over the use of farmland. Thanks to generations of apartheid, the white Afrikaner farmers own 78% of the farm.
There goes the same quote that the other anti-white gave right there, and we talked about that.
Farmland in South Africa, a country which is 80% black. These white Afrikaners are not
again, country that was 100% white, now only 7% white.
Oppressed, right? They got all of that land as a way of keeping wealth in white communities.
They got all the land. They got it. They got it. What's the assumption? It was there and it was already being farmed. It was just there for anybody to farm, and it was already being farmed, and then the white people just went and got it. We built it, you piece of shit. We built it. You ever heard of strange fruit? We built it. They went and got it. The whites went and got Orania. They went out there and got it. It's safe. It's clean. There are houses. There's farmland there now. They went out and got it away from the blacks.
And away from black people. Now that the South African
actually said, got it away from black people.
Government is making efforts to undo that inequality, and these white people now have to share the same land, freedom, and privileges and rights as black people.
They now have to share the land. You finally have to, you stole it, and now you have to share it. Just like the whites in Orania will now finally have to share the land, and now it feels like oppression to you, doesn't it, Oranians? Now it feels like deep oppression that everything's going to be equal here, and you have to share.
People.
You see, the only way that we can stop scum like this is by becoming a people. And then in greater and greater numbers and power structures, break down the morality of anti-whiteism so that somebody like this is immediately shunned from society. That's the only way.
Suddenly, they're all victims who need saving. None of these people look like they're especially in danger to me. They just look like they miss being able to say their favorite slurs in whites-only areas.
How do you like that?
Despite the US government overspending to the tune of $150 billion compared to the Biden administration, the US government is already agreeing to set them up with furnishing, household items, and housing the moment they get here. That's right. The United States is able to treat immigrants with human decency if they're white, share the same far-right prejudicial values as the Trump administration.
Of course, the United States, all across Europe, they're putting the non-whites. We got non-whites in 5-star hotels in New York City on our tax dollars. Check it out for yourself. But I think everybody knows Doge has uncovered a bunch of that. They're being taken care of. We have trillions going out in Medicaid, supposedly now we're finding out, outside of the country. I mean, everything is so far from reality in anti-whiteism, anti-white narrative. Everything is so far from reality that you can't have a productive conversation with them. That's why when you come upon, if you come upon an anti-white like this, you just call him an anti-white POS and move on. We need to get to our brothers and sisters to become a people before it's too late. Or you all are going to have apparatchiks like this clown deciding what's going to happen to you and your white family after millennia of riding high on the exploitation of non-white people. How do you think that's going to go for you?
Just saying, all those viral videos of people being racist in cars and in restaurants and in public parks and in bowling alleys and all of that, you're going to expect a lot more South African accents in the coming months. At the end of the day, when you're privileged, equality feels like oppression.
There you
that's
go.
What they're running.
And that's really, he's just citing this MP. And you could tell when he said that, you look at his eyes, he really felt like that was a very powerful point. If you stay in the anti-white narrative, it is. The only way to dismantle it is to get out of it with the concepts you use, the focus on us, and we teach you how to do that in the Go Free Dialogic. And you can make a mess of this guy in conversation. And by whose determination? The people who it matters. The people who matter, our brothers and sisters in their millions. Not you. Not you, not what you can determine and lie to yourself about is the great victory over this guy. That he's homosexual or that he's non-white, whatever race you think he is. That's no victory. And evidence of generations of failing that way should be enough.